Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank to my supervisors, Ma'am Reli Handayani and Ma'am Nunung Fajaryani, and also thanks to the examiners, Mr. Ahmad Rida, Ma'am Melati and Ma'am Nelly, for giving me a chance to present my thesis entitled A Comparative Study of Compliant Speech Act Between English Native Speakers and Indonesian English Learners. In pragmatic study, there is a term interlanguage pragmatic. Pragmatically, complaint can be explained through speech act theory. One of speech act is expression of complaint, which can be influenced by power and distance. In order to answer the research question, it will have two research objectives. The first one is to find out the strategies of responder in expressing complaint, and the second one is to find out the different strategies in expressing complaint by the English native speakers and Indonesian English learners. The study on the examines potential differences on 12 participants of students' university. The study limits the focus on the sentences or word by word that taught by the participants with no intellectual features. And last, the study focused only on two main characteristics, power and distance. As the researcher, I expect the research will enrich the material for language learning in study of speech act of complaint, and as additional knowledge in pragmatic, or maybe used as reference for other researchers with related topics. On Chapter 2, the researcher reviewed the first interlanguage pragmatic, speech act theory, speech act of complaint, strategies of complaint proposed by Tosbrook 1995. They are hint, consequences, annoyance, indirect accusation, direct accusation, explicit blame behavior, explicit blame person, and modified blame. And last is preview study related to the topic. This research will use descriptive qualitative research. With 12 students of university as participants, 6 students are representative of Indonesian English learners, and 6 others are representative of English native speakers. The data will be collected through demographic questionnaire and PCT. The researcher gives the participant the informed consent form and the demographic questionnaire. After completing that, the participant need to complete the DCT. After all the data have been collected, it then will be transcribed. After being transcribed, the researcher will analyze it using the complaining strategies proposed by Tosbrook 1995. The data will then be analyzed to be decided in which strategy it is categorized. The last thing to do is to compare both groups to find out the difference in using complaint strategies. The finding shows the table of types occurrence in complaint strategies proposed by Tosbrook 1995 of Indonesian English learners and English native speakers. As seen on the table, there are total 22 data collected from 12 participants, 6 situations, 8 strategies in the context of distance on and power. There are all 8 types of complaint strategies found from Indonesian English learners. However, there are only 7 types of complaint strategies can be found from English native speakers. Since zero occurrence of explicit blame person. Based on the data, direct acquisition is the most common strategy used by both English native speakers and Indonesian English learners. Meanwhile, explicit blame and indirect acquisition are the least common types, which only occur once or twice. The discussion divided into 6 situations. The first situation saw the use of ill-consequence strategy by Indonesian English learner. Based on the theory, it is an ill consequence when a complainer can express disapproval concerning a certain state of affairs he or she considers bad for him or her. The complainer simply expresses displeasure by saying, "I don't really like this program, and if you still want to watch this, I will go outside," as a threat to the viewer. Therefore, it will have a direct impact on the complainee if she continues to do that action as the complainer chooses to leave her friend. And the second is self-annoyance strategy by English native speakers. Similar to ill consequence, annoyance strategy can express disapproval concerning a certain state of affairs he or she considers bad for him or her. However, the action didn't have impact to the complainer directly. Regarding the complainer response, the complainant demonstrates annoyance as she says, "I don't like that program. I don't like it. I hate that show," due to she doesn't like and feel bothered with the program. The complainer said it over and again, as if emphasizing that he really didn't like what her friend was doing. The second situation shows the use of hint strategy by English native speaker. The hint strategy doesn't directly state that something is bad. The issue shows how the complainer as parent didn't say directly that jobless is not a good thing. However, the complainer prefers to give a sign by asking, "Why have not you found job yet?" That indicates she or he wants the hearer to go get a job. Moreover, she seems giving a statement that has a bad impact for his or her own self on the questions. Who do you expect to buy stuff? However, as seen in the sentence, "Let's look for one together and I will help you." As parents, the complainer still showing his or her consent to help the son by persuading him. In the third situations, it shows indirect accusation by Indonesian English learner. The indirect strategy of complaint is usually accompanied by belief, and the form of belief is, "Sorry, but there seems to be a problem with your assignment." The strategy of indirect complaint is done to prevent FTA because listeners have higher status or power. This is countered again by the next utterance. "Could you please check it?" The form of the question is usually an important indication of a direct and indirect form. Then, why is this uttered an indirect form? Because it seems that the complainer is really trying not to do FTA, so as to encourage politeness. Therefore, the complainer uses question sentences that are willing to be more polite and model. And the second, the use of direct accusation by English native speakers. A direct complaint strategy is a complaint made to someone who is responsible for the offense felt by the complainer. The person who offends this has a role to directly fix it. "Can you please do the necessary correction and give me a feedback so that I know where to improve on?" Here, the complainer immediately changes his action. So, complaint in this direct strategy do expect the hearer to immediately make situation or condition that are indeed wrong or unpleasant be better. The complainer has low power and there is no distance between them, so he or she cannot complain frankly. Even though the students complain directly, he or she tend to be more polite by using auxiliary verb in the sentence, "Can you please?" Use permission in the sentence, "Excuse me, professor," and also thanking in the end of complaining. The first situation shows the use of explicit blame person by Indonesian English learner. In explicit blame person, the complainer explicitly states what is implicit at all others' level, namely that he finds the accused as a non-responsible social member. The complainer immediately blaming and accusing the hearer as a cheater by giving a question, "Are you a cheater?" as a statement to emphasize that the hearer was doing wrong. Then continually asking from the problem, "Why you sell a broken phone?" to be handled by the hearer as he or she says, "I want my money back." The fifth situation shows the use of modified blame by Indonesian English learner. In modified blame strategy, the complainer expresses modified disapproval of an action for which the accused is responsible. "I do wish you could be more careful." The complainer used the word "could be more careful" as a strategy of complaint which is modified by a form of questions with the meaning of hope that the hero will change his actions. The last situation shows the use of explicit blame behavior by English native speaker. In explicit blame behavior, the complainer explicitly states that an action held by the accused is bad. The first sentence goes with expression, "Excuse me, sir." It is a permission. It clearly shows the speaker has lower power than the hearer. "You cannot cut the line." The complainer doesn't blame the old man, but she blames the action of him cutting the line. Apart from that, the complainer clearly talking about the hearer's habit. "Please don't make this a habit, cause not everyone is as nice as me." The complainer explicitly states that an action held by the accused is bad. There are some conclusions that can be drawn. The first, from the 72 data analyzed, there are 4 categories and 8 strategies found. Second, the 8 strategies proposed by Touchbook 1995 can be found on Indonesian English learners complaining. However, one of them didn't appear in the English native speakers complaining, namely explicit blame person. And the last, the most common used strategy of both speakers is direct accusation strategy. Meanwhile, the list is explicit blame behavior strategy. The researcher suggests the lecture of English department to expose this research as the source of data in learning pragmatics. And the researcher suggests the students of English department should understand further about the act complaining, interact more using English, and study about other culture. That's all for my presentation today. Thanks for your chance. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.